Okay, everyone, welcome to Gru, and thank you so much for taking time and coming on. I appreciate it.
Our
Sure.
pleasure.
Your
Thank you.
interest.
Definitely. So, like the first question I want to start out with is for Mike Michael. Like, what inspired you to want to make the film about Tom and Jason?
I went to school around the corner at NYU Film School. And so, every student and alum knew of Veselka. And I started going there in the early 2000s. Um, I was introduced to Tom and Jason through mutual colleagues in November of 2021. And I had known kind of the back to the menu history of the restaurant going in, and I was intrigued by the kind of multi-generational story. And recently, in looking at like my initial pitch package that I gave them, the top line says it's a story about fathers and sons, and that remains to this day now that the movie's done. But with the war, that theme got amplified in so many ways. But yeah, I just wanted to tell this kind of rich 70-year story about fathers and sons, and also the transition. The war hadn't started yet, so we were looking at things like they were going to do a renovation on the restaurant. Tom, his retirement kind of got sped up because of the pandemic, so it's kind of Jason taking over and now having this renovation with a pandemic going on. And so those are all in the movie. Those are, largely like, act one kind of setups. But then when the war began, in February, everybody kind of sat on the premise that I had pitched, and I contacted Tom and Jason and said, with this war, not that we want to exploit the war, your employees that are Ukrainian, but because the storefront was started by, your father-in-law and grandfather respectively, out of, World War II and fleeing Russian oppression. I said the parallels here are too rich to, not dive into it here in a movie. And they agreed. And so we started filming on the 11th day of the war, and that's basically act one of the movie.
Okay. And Tom, like when you first had the place, like how how was it for you? Did you have any struggles while running it?
Well, I had a lot of struggles. My father-in-law was an icon in the Ukrainian neighborhood, and
Mhm.
Veselka back in those early days was very much a Ukrainian business. Most of the
Okay.
staff were not fluent in English. We had a lot of Ukrainian newspapers and magazines, and uh, I had to say most of the clientele were Ukrainian or Polish speaking. So, which in the early days I didn't know a word. So it was hard for me to kind of relate to the Ukrainian community. But with time, people started to accept me, and I started to play around trying to speak the language, saying speaking to people in Ukrainian, and yeah, eventually I got the hang of it. Luckily.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
And Jason, when you started to take over, like was there a lot of pressure for you to run it?
No, I mean, I've been a part of this for majority of my life. I mean, starting as a teenager, and I had experience coming in working in the family business after college, and then being back since 2000. I mean, I've been mentored and groomed for this over a long period of time. It wasn't something that was overnight. So
Yeah.
I knew I started to embrace that and obviously learn. You can always learn things, and I still communicate with my father regularly about different issues that I'm sure of. So, I mean, we'll stay, attached to the hip in terms of what's the best ways to tackle things. But no, it's been an easy transition. No pressure.
Good. Good, good. That's good.
We've had, as Tom says, we've had so many different things thrown at us over the years with, 9/11, Superstorm Sandy, the pandemic. A lot of restaurants did not survive the pandemic. And I can tell you stories. We closed for the first time ever, and I got sick with COVID a week after the restaurant closed. So, we persevered, we survived, we continue to do what we do best.
Oh wow, okay. And Tom and Jason, like this is another question for you
Yeah, I'm
both.
sorry.
Like,
Just to follow up on that before my wife just
oh
passed
yeah,
me.
yeah,
So before pandemic and war, back in my early days, we had two blackouts, we had water main breaks, we had the Second Avenue subway.
oh my god,
Began
Our neighbor was on fire.
or
oh
the
my
building
god,
next to us, half the building burned down. And
wow.
actually, my wife and I were on Broadway seeing Death of a Salesman. We're sitting at halftime, and I hear over the loudspeaker, which you never hear on Broadway, Tom Birchard, please come to the lobby for an emergency phone call. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I know that guy. Where do I know that guy from? And then, so anyway, I came down and Jason was on the phone and he said, the building next door is on fire and it looks like Veselka's going up to.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, so we hopped in a cab and we sped downtown and started planning the rest of our life. And luckily we got there, and the fire department had put the fire out, and Veselka reopened the next morning. So
Wow.
yeah, we've been through thick and thin.
Yeah, it
100%.
definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And the next question is for you both too. Like you guys became the beacon of hope for Ukraine. How does that make you both feel?
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah.
I can answer
Honestly,
that too. I can say this, Rocco. When I first came to Veselka was the '60s, late '60s, and I didn't know anything about Ukraine at all. I didn't even know where Ukraine was, but my in-laws took me under their wing and kind of explained to me their history and their struggle, and fleeing Ukraine as the Germans were coming from one side and the Russians the other. Basically getting chased out of their homeland and their home and coming to the U.S. with a suitcase, and starting from scratch. They were professional people in Ukraine, but after spending a couple of years in the East Village, they moved to New Jersey, and my mother-in-law was like a nurse's orderly at a hospital in Newark, changing bedpans and cleaning hallways and doing menial work. And my father-in-law swept the floors at Valentine Brewery in Newark. So they really struggled. But they he managed to buy a little store and start a marginally successful business. And to now see people go through this again, getting driven out of their country and their homes destroyed. It's exactly it's very similar to what my in-laws went through, and to see that go through our staff, their families go through this again. It's really, it's heartbreaking. So it's just natural for us to try to help in some small way, save the moms and dads and children of our employees' families who were stuck back in Ukraine. Luckily, we managed to help get some of them out, which you see in the film.
Good. Wow.
That's a hard act to follow. Obviously, because my grandfather was such a patriot and always believed in an independent Ukraine, and now that Ukraine had been, prior to the war, and still is an independent country for more than 30 years. I often think about what he would do and what he would say if he were alive today, and I know that he would be very proud of what we've built here. And my immediate thoughts were of my staff and what I can do for the community and what I can do, you know, what he would do. And he would try to support and send, you know, donate or contribute monies to help on the humanitarian relief efforts, or any which way would help keep Ukraine for Ukrainians. So, I mean, it became a no-brainer for me. I feel, you know, as some people say, you know, what inspired, you know, his spirit lives in me. I believe that. I didn't, he passed when I was a very young boy. I really didn't know him, but I hear plenty of stories, and I'm, you know, blessed and happy to follow in his footsteps, his big footsteps, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah, definitely. And Michael, the question goes back to you: is how did you wind up getting the two Davids on board for the film? Like, you got two big Davids that are on the film.
Yeah.
So I'll start with David Duchovny. I'd already proposed the idea to Tom and Jason about having a narrator, and I thought, you know, it's important if we're going to have that voice, that it's somebody speaking with knowledge of Veselka. It's not as much as, you know, reading what I wrote on the page. And we had floated a bunch of different names and ideas, and David Duchovny just became pretty obvious because he lived 2 blocks from the restaurant. And, you know, Tom and Jason both have stories of interactions with either David's mother or David filming in the restaurant at one point. And David immediately said yes, and has been amazingly supportive of the movie. And then David Sanborn, I'm just actually real quick. So I got him just by calling his agent. You know, that they always say, you know, just ask. The worst you can get is a no. And I've lit, my whole career is built on that. Like, I'm a believer in just knocking on a door and kind of doing the self-made thing, and it worked. So the same thing happened with David Sanborn, but in this case, it was my composer called him, and I had always known that I wanted to do like an East meets West score. So I knew I wanted saxophone representing the West in New York City, and then something like some sort of Ukrainian folk vibe representing Ukraine, and kind of mashing those two together. And my composer, Ryan Shore, who's one of my best friends, and we've worked together since 1998. He had, you know, ideas, and I started floating New York saxophonists that I really loved. And David Sanborn to me is a god. You know, he's like the best. He's a legend. And I never even put his name out there because I was like, even though I'm a door knocker, I was like, there's no way we're getting David Sanborn. And Ryan just said, he brought it up. He mentioned David Sanborn. He said, well, what about David Sanborn? And I said, well, if you want to try, let's go for it. And he did. And he said, yes. So again, always knock on the door, because you might get
never know.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And this is for all 3 of you. Like, what did you all love most about making the film and putting your story out there?
Who goes
Who's
first?
going to start?
I was going to say,
I really appreciate the fact that, you know, it has been a labor of love of mine for 55 years. So this is my, for better or worse, in a way, my creation. It's not solely my creation, but it's certainly something I was given and nurtured and developed and changed. And so I'm really, really happy to have it preserved now for my children and grandchildren. And I think there is a message there that you can run a successful business, but you can also be generous and you know, a philanthropist, if you will, and create a nurturing culture, and not focus on other things along with your bottom line. Obviously, you have to pay your bills, but to me, there's always been more to running a business and being a community member in the East Village than just making a profit. So that's, I think that message kind of comes through. I decided, I went through some really rough times at Veselka. I went through a time when really the neighborhood was very run down. Nobody was coming. And I just got to the point where I said, I'm going to do whatever I can do to just get people to come in the door for a little while. I'll probably go bankrupt, but I just want some people in here. And once I took my eye off of making money and just wanted to focus on having a homey place where people would come, even if it was just for a cup of coffee and sit around all night long. I just wanted people in there. And kind of in an ironic way, once I stopped paying attention to the money, we started to succeed. So
Oh, wow.
that's kind of one of the messages that I hope comes through the film. Veselka is a magical place. It's very welcoming. It's homey. People love it. And seeing the reaction to this film since it's come out has been really, really gratifying, because people love the place. And I think that's my greatest accomplishment.
Okay.
Mike.
Oh, you're gonna okay. No, I have an answer. I have an answer. So there's a favorite, one of my, I think it was my senior quote in my high school yearbook when I graduated, from the movie Tucker. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's Francis Ford Coppola directed it. It's Jeff Bridges, Martin Landau, and there's this great moment when they've kind of gone through the struggles together, Martin Landau and Jeff Bridges, to bring Tucker's dream to life. And Martin Landau says to him, my mother used to tell me, she'd warn me, don't get too close to people, you'll catch their dreams. and then he continues on and goes, years later, I realized I misunderstood her. Germs, she said, you'll catch their germs. So for me, what I love about making this movie is I've caught their dreams. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the person that anybody would warn, stay away from people, you'll catch their dreams. But I'm the opposite of Martin Landau. I gravitate towards people who have big dreams, and whether they're in the process or they're living them in real time. Like, I love those people. I love those stories, whether I'm watching them or like a part of it, making a movie like this. So for me, I caught their dream, their 70-year dream that's going to go on forever.
I love it.
I mean, those are hard acts to follow. I mean, as I said, I'm just happy to be in a position to help, to continue to walk in the footsteps of my grandfather and my father before me, and that we can, continue to celebrate milestones, another 70 years of success. I mean, I'm very proud to say I'm a proud Ukrainian American, that I know people definitely know where Ukraine is and what Ukrainian soul food is our hashtag, what it means to enjoy that experience here. And just hoping to build on that, and sharing our story of family, and what it takes to in that adage, I'm not looking to be the leader. I mean, I would always pass it to the politicians out there, but if I can be a community leader to make some change, I will continue to do so. And I'm hoping that that's shown in the movie, and that I will continue to build on that.
Definitely, yeah. And for Tom and Jason, if someone is coming by your place for the first time, like, what do you recommend for them to eat if someone doesn't know about Ukrainian food? Like, what dishes would you recommend to them?
You got to start off with the borscht and pierogies.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you can move on to potato pancakes and stuffed cabbage and beef stroganoff and mushroom barley soup and matzo ball. And yeah, but definitely start with borscht and pierogies. And I don't want to hear that you don't like beets. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that until you try our borscht. I mean, that experience. Oh, I don't like beets. I'm not gonna. No, just take a spoonful. Just try. Just try.
I'm a living example of that.
Give me a
I
chance.
hated beets until I had your borscht. Now
I
I
mean,
love
on
it.
rare occasions, people say I still don't like beets. That's fine. Fair enough.
And the last thing I will ask you all is, where can fans follow the film and follow you three at?
So we have a
Like,
social media handle that's across all the platforms at Veselka Movie, and then also on the Veselka restaurant website, veselka.com. You can get information about the restaurant, the menu, but also there's information about the movie there as well. And just real quick, we're opening in Ukraine starting tomorrow in the Planeta Kino theater chain across 4 cities, 6 cinemas. And
Wow.
on Friday in the United States for a week, in New York at the Village East, LA at the Laemmle NoHo 7, Washington, D.C. at the Regal Gallery Place, and New Jersey at the Bernardsville Cinema 3. So it'll open up wider over the next month or so as well in Chicago, Toronto, and other places. And you can just visit our social media and the Veselka site for any updates.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for taking time coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No,
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, have a great day, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
You too. You too.
Thanks, Rocco.
Bye.